Yeah, if we can get, we'll be at almost a quarter of our road schedule done by the end of this trip. But you'd like them stacked early in the year if possible. But that's almost like a first world problem because when you play in the West, you're back and forth. So you just got to learn how to deal with it.
50 shots back-to-back games. When you look back, what's led to the volume of chances and the volume of shots that you guys have had these last two?
Mindset first as an option to be a shooter. I think we aren't necessarily guaranteed more production at the 50-shot level. You may score more goals if you don't shoot a puck and try to let a play develop and see what happens. But we think we're already good at that and maybe skewed so much to it that we need to shift our mindset over to a shot first mentality and then let it settle back into picking the right times to make a play and the right times not to shoot a puck. So we are asking them to drive as hard to be shooters as much as possible. We also firmly believe that you're far more likely to be able to get a puck to the net in the playoffs than you are going to be able to hit a seam. They just aren't there as much. So it's changing a mindset of how we produce our offense. So the idea at the end of this long-winded answer is the shot is the start of the play, not the end of a play. It's how things begin for us, not, okay, we're done here.
After all these years of going to Glendale, what's the interest level in Tempe and the college atmosphere?
I find it, anything new is interesting because you get so routined in the NHL. It's the same thing, right? Your schedule. So anything that's kind of out of the ordinary should be fun. We should take it and enjoy it. And there should be a great, intimate atmosphere in a smaller building, but every single one of these guys grew up and had great games in those kind of buildings. So I think we're all looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's a new place. I'm sure you guys are staying in Tempe, new restaurants.
No idea about that, but we'll see when we get there. I know that you do get into those routines too, right? Same hotel, same restaurant, and if it works for you, you eat there, and if it doesn't, you find a new one. So we'll have an opportunity to start a good luck trend.
Well, in Glendale, you don't have much of a choice.
Right, it's there. It's right there. That's right. That's right.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about Carter Verhaeghe on that top line.
Mm-hmm.
He's been one of the constants. Obviously Barkov, but nobody's really moved him very much. I mean, is there they just really
there's a natural complement there due to his speed. So Alexander can play any style of game. He can grind. He's a big, strong man. He can play in the corners, and I think that's what Matthew brings to that line. There's an ability there, but he can also move and skate and make plays at a high rate of speed. So having different complements, one on each wing, different styles of game with a center iceman that can play both, that can play off each winger. And we see it, but we also see it in practice, right? You can see the chemistry and the things forming. It's not just in games. It's how they move the puck in practice and things they create. So the whole idea, I think, when we first came in is let's not break up some pairs that have worked in the past, and there's a reason why those two guys have played well together.
I mean, you have the Western Coast trip here, and then you have the West Canada trip coming up in a couple of weeks. Those trips kind of help you get a handle of gauge a group in your first year as a coach.
I think if you're coming into a team and there's a whole lot to learn. Let me try that. Normally, a new coach comes in, they spend a lot of time talking about changing the culture because the team there's a reason for it. This is an unusual set of circumstances, and the culture of the group, like the camaraderie and the closeness of the group and how they treat each other, is outstanding. So these road trips are fun for these guys. They get together, they enjoy it. I don't know that is necessary with this group because we don't have to change anything. We don't have to get them together. They do all that stuff on their own. They've got a really strong room, and road trips can provide an opportunity for you to create that or to continue it.
I mean, you've seen guys like Colin White and Rudolph Balcers get in there and start contributing quickly. Does that kind of help guys like that get in the group pretty quickly? Oh,
for sure, and Mahura coming in right away, and it makes listen. When they walk in, everybody wants to show what they can do. So when you can come in and play well and put up some numbers and feel a part of it, it helps your pride, it helps your confidence, more importantly, and it helps you interact, I think, a little easier through the room. Yeah.
Coach, it may seem like a simple statement, but talking to Brandon Montour, he said he's really just focused right now on making smart decisions, especially with the increased number of minutes that he's playing, trying to step up in the absence of Ekblad and so forth. What makes Montour a smart hockey player? What do you like about his decision making and
Yeah.
the way that he has stepped up through these first couple
The
weeks?
challenge for Brandon is that he can play above the speed of the game. He is a brilliant skater to a point that he almost has to curtail it quite a bit. And that's the decision making isn't so much with the puck and those kind of things. It's when to use the speed. So even on the setup goal to Verhaeghe, he actually had to spin a ram of that to get it over because he was patient in his lane. He had to wait for the onside to happen. But so the decision making for us with Brandon is you've got this this fighter jet that wants to go right, and he's been dynamic with it. Then getting him to kind of lay off the gas as well. Some of that is new, so he has to rely on the structure that we've put in and be patient with it at times, not lead things at times. And then, the game winner. He had crossed in behind Forsling, make sure the puck stayed in, and he was in motion and then just stopped and just came back to a hole, and they found him, right? So that would be we're a maturity coming into his game to understand that even a man that fast, and this is a team built on speed, right? So he will lead the rush at times, and he will jump into those holes, but there's a bunch of times where he has to let it happen and come late, and that is I don't know, I guess an adjustment, but an area of growth for him. I felt his last game, he had it just about right. He was dynamic when he could be, but he cut a bunch of plays off. I also think conserve some energy intelligently to play that way, because at 25 to 30 minutes now, and you're going up and down the ice, if you're leading the attack, you're not having. So at the end of the game on that goal, before he scores, he kills the play inside the blue line on a big physical player, onto Chuck. Stopped the play, got it going the other way. He had the energy to do it, and then he jumps into the hole. So I think when you're talking about elite defensemen, 25-minute plus guys, there has to be a certain amount of conservation in their game as well to be effective.
Tom Lundell not out there.
He'll be fine tomorrow. He'll be in.
He'll be in tomorrow. And I want to ask you, one thing you changed, I guess, when you guys brought in Cousins as a fourth line center kind of guy in Stahl, you moved 27 up to the third line on the wing, somewhere he'd never played before, but it looks like it's worked pretty
well. He is a player we know he can play fourth line center, and then we've had some players leave our team. We've got the Duclair injury, so there was a hole there. We also felt that he's very capable of playing in our top nine. It didn't really matter the wing. We think Lundell he can play the wing too, but Lundell is a pure centerman. We want to develop him as a center, but Luosterainen can play both, and having him be able to play the wing. So at some point in his career, he may be first line left wing, right? But he is. That will be where he get to the first line. But I think he can play center, but he's got a skill level that he can play above the fourth line now.
He was a guy that when Florida traded for him and from Carolina that nobody knew much about him. But I think last year people were like, watch him.
Right.
This guy is talented.
He had a great start and went through the normal first year challenges in that it's a long season and it's a grinding season. These guys play a very fast game. You get off the plane at 2 o'clock in the morning all the time. The cost for Lundell and for Luosterainen is always higher on the younger players. And they come back. Fitness is different. They're stronger, right? They can do more. They recover faster. So that's how those young men get more. He's earned it. It wasn't that one wasn't a Sage pickup here. It wasn't. You watch the playoff games. This guy can play in the top nine. He can play the wing for sure.
Right. Just to get him.
You could just watch it and you could see it. He's capable. We don't want to leave a young player on the fourth line that's capable of playing in the top nine, because he's what he and Lundell do in the first 6 months of this season is critical for the franchise this year and going forward. We have to develop the young players as fast as we can. So Lundell's running the power play on the half wall right now with Ekblad out of the lineup with the adjustment. He's over the boards very early on the penalty kill. You'll see the rotation come off the bench now. Lundell's line will play against the other team's best at times. You get more veteran guys doing it, but I'll run them against the other team's best, because there's no. Even if it costs you a goal, and it doesn't when you look at their plus minus, but even if it does, there's a payoff a month ahead, 2 months from now.
Speaking of that third line, what do you think Colin White adds for that line?
So he's a bit chameleon-like in it. He's picked up what those two guys are good at and just changed his game to be like that. So Colin's a very smart player, and he's got a really good set of hands. And he's figured out where those guys generate loose pucks, what holes to get into, when to be patient. Let those two guys hunt a little bit. He's find the hole. His neutral zone's very good in terms of they'll get pushing out in the neutral zone real fast. He just pulls over to the lock side. He's just learned to play off them. Smart guy.